we have another rig rundown here at 12 Guitars. I'm Ken Morton and we have with us Liam Brown.
Hey, Did.
Liam's going to talk about his guitars and the pedals and the rig he uses. So over to you, Liam.
Yep.
How did you get into guitars and
so
about the equipment you use?
Basically, I started off with this bass right here. I'm a bass player by trade, so guitar is not my first instrument. Bass wise, I play a PV Zodiac EX, which was the first bass I ever actually owned, and it's got Seymour Duncans in it. They're basically, I can't remember what model they are, but the same ones they use on the P basses at the factory.
Sure.
And it's got flats on it from Diodario, and it just sounds gorgeous. It sounds very kind of R&B. You can get any kind of Motown-y kind of sound out that you need. Like, that's a lot of stuff I play.
So you mentioned the flat wound strings. What does that mean?
So basically, the way this string, the metal is wound around the string. It's like one long, continuous kind of, almost like kind of
ribbon of metal.
That's exactly the word I'm looking for. Yeah. So whereas with round wounds, it sounds a lot brighter and twangier because they're round. Yeah. They are wound round a certain way.
Right. Okay. Excellent.
Do you want to do that bit again? Because I can't speak today. Quite clearly.
Right.
Yeah, I'll do the flat bits again.
However, the flat wound strings gives a sort of warmer tone. Is that?
Yeah. So flats basically sound a lot warmer, a lot woodier, which is why I like them a lot. Especially if you're doing a pick, actually, which I don't do a lot, but you can kind of tell if you really crank a tone.
Oh yes, yes. So that was your first bass guitar?
Yeah, so it started off just with the stock pickups and I replaced them, and I just really loved the feeling of it, so I was like, no, I'm just going to keep it. So that's this one. My next one, which I use quite a lot, is actually a 6-string. So this one, I kind of got it because I was doing more kind of sight reading stuff, and you know, it gets to the point where you're reading a chart and you're like, oh, there's a big run away up this end of the neck. I don't really have time to be thinking about where I'm going to play it, where's most convenient. So when you've got that low B string or that high C string, it just really helps when you're trying to get around the neck a lot more economically.
Yeah.
And also it makes for some killer wrists.
So this is a 6-string bass guitar?
Yes, that's the one. So it sounds pretty beastly, it's pretty cool.
Does that mean that the bottom string is lower than a normal?
Yes, that's right.
The top string is higher than
absolutely.
A normal bass?
So these 4 strings here, those are like your normal bass strings, and then this one up here, that's a C instead of a B like on a guitar, and this low one's a B. So you're going kind of 50. Basically, it's just so that you can kind of get around a bit easier without having to be way up this end. This has got rounds on it, so it's got a bit more growl. Especially within those low strings, you need that kind of growl. So if I had flats on this, it would sound really powerful. It would be great if I was wanting just like a really deep sub bass kind of sound. But if you want a bit more attack, then it's definitely useful to have that. And it sounds really nice up the top end. It doesn't kind of lose any of that bassiness. A lot of people are like, well, if you get a 6-string bass for, like, why you're not just playing like a baritone guitar kind of thing, if that's the range you want to play in. But it's definitely a specific sound that you get from like the high.
So this is your go-to guitar now, is it?
It is at the moment. If there's specific sounds I want, so I play in a blues band, so that's usually that bass that comes out for that one, because it fits the sound a bit more. Okay. It just sounds a bit more kind of authentic, quote unquote, I suppose. Whereas this I'm kind of using for everything else pretty much. And I write all my music on this, so when I'm just sitting at the laptop, because you can play chords, you can do those big spreads and stuff, and then you can play melodies, you can play bass lines. It means that you don't have to get up and then you have to plug a guitar in, then you need to plug a bass in, then you plug a keyboard in. You can just get the idea out first of all, without having to switch instrument at all. So that's how I use that.
There'll be some young folk wanting to learn bass watching this.
Yep.
And I noticed you've got 4 knobs there.
Yes.
And 2 pickups.
I do.
So maybe if you could talk through
Absolutely.
how they work, just to...
Yep, so these are EMG pickups. They are active and they only have 1 control, or 2 controls, sorry, which is volume and tone for each one. So this is for the front pickup, that's the volume and that's the tone. And this is the back one's volume and tone. And all that means is that if you kind of turn the tone all the way up, it sounds a bit brighter. It's almost kind of like you've opened the lid on the tone a little bit. That's how I always think of it.
Okay.
Whereas if they're right down the way,
it's kind of a thicker sound.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot warmer. It's a lot deeper. for sure. But yeah, that's kind of, it's more of an aesthetic thing really.
Right. Excellent.
Yeah, so that's the bass side of things, and then a little bit later on in life I got into guitar, and I ended up actually got this guitar for free. From a friend of mine.
What age were you when you started playing?
Oh, 12 officially. And
what age are you now?
I'm now 20. But for like the first 4 years, I think I just played Smoke on the Water for like a repeat and just pretended I could play guitar.
Has to be done.
That's it, yeah, it's a rite of passage. But this guitar, I love it to bits, it's my favourite guitar. Just changed the strings on it a couple of days ago, so it might be a little bit lumpy in the tuning. But it just sounds gorgeous, it sounds really, really warm. I'll take the pedal off. Treble pickup. Really, really kind of twangy, and then if you want to go a bit darker, yeah. So it's got a whole range of tones, and then obviously you can mess about with your tone controls, and you can get a bit.
Okay, that's again with the tone dial.
Exactly the same controls as the 6-string volume and tone, for respective pickups. I don't actually know what type of pickups these are. I know that this was made, I've googled the serial number, it was made in the Korean factory before Epiphone switched over to Japan, and they changed all the pickups that they used as well. So I don't really know what's in this, but I know it was made in like 95 I believe, so that's pretty much all I've got on it, all the knowledge I know about it.
Knowing what I know about guitars, that's an SG.
Yes, it is indeed. So this is Epiphone SG, and it's got the wee Gibson named plate there. I don't think they make those anymore, the wee name tags on the truss rod. So you can kind of tell it's older if you ever see one of those. But yeah, it sounds absolutely gorgeous. Normally, pedal wise, what I have on with it is this Fender 59 Bassman pedal by Boss. With this, I usually have a bit more pedals than the bass, which I'll come back to in a minute. Always on is the Boss Fender 59 Bassman. So Boss and Fender had a little partnership ages ago. They made a couple of pedals together. This is one of them. Couldn't find them anywhere, and then suddenly one showed up on Facebook, and I was like, I'm having that. I just always leave this on if I'm doing anything sort of bluesy.
Right. Okay.
It just sounds really, really meaty and kind of, but without sounding too bassy. I've noticed that there's a fine line in a lot of distortion pedals where you can either get beef or you can get bass. Do you know what I mean? They're different things, so you don't want it to be
the Bassman's a famous amplifier that Clapton was using.
Yes.
Does that emulate that sort of tone?
It definitely does. You can do that a lot with it. It's got 6 knobs on it, and you can kind of adjust that however you want. If you max out, you kind of become Angus Young, kind of Eric Clapton sort of sounds. You can really get some unusual sounds with it as well. It's kind of bit more unique. You can craft a sort of more tonally adventurous sound if you like. As well as that, I've got my Big Muff, everyone needs one.
So a fuzz pedal.
Yes, fuzz pedal. Chaotic noise on it. It's great. It's so much fun. And my favourite thing to do is pair that with a phaser pedal. It gets pretty evil after it was run. And I've also got a rack chorus pedal which I got with the guitar, also for free. And I use that quite a lot. You can actually use that for some really nice kind of jazzier moments if you like. If it was the tune.
It's a totally different sound you're getting.
Yeah, so you can use that for kind of jazzier stuff. Like you say, it's a totally different sound. Tone all the way down, volume up on the front pickup.
Sound to the others.
Exactly, totally different, completely changes exactly what you're playing. I've got a wah pedals here as well, which I usually use for solos and stuff, but unfortunately that broke last night as I was getting everything ready, so we shall skim over that one. The phase pedal, and as well as using it with the big muff, I like to just use it as a kind of keeps things a bit more adventurous. I'm a huge Zappa fan, and that was kind of his sound. He did that all the time, was use the phase pedal, and kind of the way he was playing as well. So like Dweezil Zappa, his son talks about it quite a lot, the way he played. So instead of kind of playing something all on the same string by like hammering off or something, it's always like if he can play on a different string, so he could pick it, because that just gives it that really distinct sort of sound. Loads of bends like. Yeah, exactly. Very unusual. It's very kind of twangy, kind of very 70s. You know what I mean? It's very kind of proggy, but not too on the nose. Do you know what I mean? So when you whip that out in a solo nowadays, people are a bit like, oh, that's unusual. I've not really heard that before. So that's kind of the guitar side of things. Like I say, I'm not a guitar player by trade, so I'm not a shredder by any means. But I do use this in my live shows. I kind of switch between bass and guitar for that. Bass-wise, pedals. I've only got the one, and it's my favourite one, which is the Boss bass equaliser, and that's been on this whole time. So that's what you can hear in bass-wise, but it's just really versatile in terms of tone. So I can, if I want a bit more kind of funky stuff, then I'd maybe kind of boost the mids, keep everything else maybe the same. Maybe
so the middle frequencies and increasing them.
So you can kind of see how it kind of gives you a bit more of a kind of brighter, a little bit brighter, but not too much. A bit more jazz bassy, but not quite. So it's a bit more unique. You can obviously, with a 6-string as well, you can go for the whole kind of electronic sub bass kind of thing. So you can absolutely play around with that for days, and you'll just get a different sound out of it every time. But yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. There's only one other key element to the whole thing, and that's my laptop, which is sitting in the background just now, not doing anything because I actually have amps with me today. These aren't actually my amps, these are borrowed. But basically, whenever I'm playing gigs, I'm usually just running everything out of the laptop through Mainstage or Ableton, and that's just going straight into the PA from the interface. And then all the modelling stuff's on there, and don't really need to worry about it. So it just saves me having to have an amp to gig, really. That's pretty much it.
Well, that's excellent. Thank you very much, Liam, for a real look at your gig and your setup. Hope you enjoyed this video. This is 12 Guitars signing off. Thank you.
Cheers.